Hey everyone, my name is Bill Collins, Marketing Manager with MAGIX. In this video, we're going to take a look at Acid Pro 11. Music producers today have loads of options for music making tools, whether it's plugins, endless amounts of loops and samples, virtual instruments, and digital audio workstations, and that's just software. There are many fantastic DAWs on the market today, and while most of them have similar features with recording, editing, mixing, and mastering, each of them is unique in their own way. If you're looking for an addition to your music production arsenal, you should seriously check out Acid Pro. And if you use loops and one-shots in your production, you'll love how easy it is to get ideas happening fast in Acid Pro. Okay, so I'm here in Acid Pro 11, and I have a loop library pulled up, and I don't really have an idea. I'm just going to start previewing some of these loops and see what we have. Okay, I like that. I can drag it up and create a track. Let's extend this to be 8 full measures and take it back to the beginning. Now let's add in a hi-hat. Start at measure 5. And I'm going to select this chunk. I'll make a selection here and copy and paste it here as well. Now what I like to do is start to layer some of these sounds. And one of my favorite things about Acid is just experimenting with different loops, layering different loops on top of each other. You can get some really unique textures. So let's check that out. Now all of these loops work together and can be used together in your production. So starting at measure 9, let's bring in this other loop. Now one thing that's unique about Acid is the pick, paint, play workflow. Now you have a loop library to choose from, so that is the pick portion, and then you can use the paint tool to draw in loops. So I can quickly make arrangements and then I can right click to actually take that out if I wish. So you can really start to experiment quickly with your loops. Now let's find a tonal loop, like a bass line. Now one thing I love about Acid is the ability to quickly pitch things up and down. So I've added in this bass line, and it's in the key of A, and I can quickly transpose it down 2 steps if I like that sound better. And I'll extend that. So hopefully you can see, if you're armed with a loop library and one-shots, how quick and easy it is to develop ideas in Acid Pro. Another cool feature that's unique to Acid Pro is event-based processing. So as you can see here, I have a hi-hat track, and if I click on this effects button, this will allow me to access my plugins. So here I could add in an effect just on that particular event. So let me find, I'll bring up a delay. And I can have a different plugin chain for each event. In fact, I can string up to 32 effects on each event. So this is a great way to add some variety and ear candy in your music production. So one of the coolest new features in Acid Pro is something called morph pads. And morph pads are really interesting in that you can do some live hands-on mixing. This opens up a lot of creative possibilities. If you are a DJ and you're used to turning knobs and adding delay effects and triggering other sounds, and it will be pretty familiar to you. But I also see it being really useful for sound designers as well, because with Acid you have such a playground of sounds that you can use with loops and one-shots, and of course MIDI instruments as well. But having the ability to have a hands-on control over effects is really, really powerful and can lead to some unpredictable results. So let's check this out. So first of all, we need to bring in the morph pads, and I'll explain a little bit more detail here. So go to View, Morph Pads, and this is the blank window that we have here. So let me add one morph pad. Click on the plus sign. So what do we see here? We see an XY interface, and I can drag this little node around and go between the different corners like that. And up at the top, I have a drop-down list for presets and a bunch of really useful presets like basics like chorus, delay, reverb, builds, filters, delays, special effects, so on and so forth. So a lot of really cool, usable presets that you can work with right away. I also point out a couple other things, is that we can do this latch feature, where it sticks to the lower left-hand corner. So if I drag this up, it snaps down to the bottom. This is useful for things like if I wanted to add an effect really quickly and then have it snap back. So that's helpful. Also having a mix feature, so this allows me to blend the level of effects into the mix. Effects targets, this allows me to apply this morph pad to individual tracks or the master. And if I had aux sends and or bus sends in this session, they would show up here as well. So it's really, really customizable to whatever project you're working on. So let's bring up a preset and check it out. So let's find something that's really easy to hear. Let's do a resonator. All right. Now, what track do I want to apply this to? Let's start with this drum loop. Now I can apply it to multiple loops if I wish, but let's just do the one for now and have a listen. Let's try some different effects. Now DJs often will filter out a mix during their set. Let's check out that type of workflow. I'll do a high pass filter and I'll apply this to the master. Oop. Make sure I have master chosen. So I'm just hearing the hi-hat. Some of those synths, I can bring this in. This might be a good use for the latch feature. Now we can have multiple morph pads as well. Let me add a couple more. And you may have noticed this little sync feature. I can sync the XY in a number of different ways. Let's do mirror. And I'll apply it to a few different targets. And I'll just do some random effects here. So having this hands-on control is really fun and allows you to come up with some really unpredictable moves with effects. And, you know, we're always kind of searching for a unique experience. And if you are creating electronic music or dance music, so much of it is about the tension and release, the build that you create. So having access to morph pads really lets you do this in a DAW, and it's a pretty unique effect. The ability to have hands-on control using a comfortable XY interface. And we can also save presets if we wish. If you liked a particular chain of morph pads that you set up, you can easily save that. So I'd like to point out that Acid comes in a couple of different varieties. You have Acid Pro and Acid Pro Suite, and also Acid Music Studio. Acid Music Studio is a super basic, really limited version of Acid, but it's really fun for beginners to get their start in music production. Acid Pro and Acid Pro Suite, the big difference there is Acid Pro Suite comes with a really nice bundle of third-party effects from some really great partners. So let's take a look at some of that. There's a really nice collection of effects from our partners at Brainworks. My personal favorite being the Brainworks Master Desk. So it's essentially you have a mastering console in a plugin. So let's take a look at some of these effects in action. So one of the coolest plugins in this bundle is the BX console, which is an emulation of a Focusrite console. And essentially you get a channel strip. You have dynamics processing like compression and gating and high and low pass filters and a fully parametric EQ, as well as phase, mute, and a bunch of other controls. And another really helpful plugin is the Brainworks Master Desk Classic. So essentially you get a mastering console in a plugin. You have control over volume, you can widen your stereo image, you can adjust the tone and adjust a bit of a saturation or distortion, just slight distortion in your mix. And then Foundation really gives it kind of a bottom lift. If you're looking for more loops and sounds, you can access the Producer Planet store right from within Acid. If you go to View and make sure Store is checked, this will bring up this window, and that allows you to browse through and find a bunch of different sounds, guitars and drums. All right, well, thank you for joining me, and if you have any more questions, you can go to magix.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of IMSTA Online. Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Bill Collins, Marketing Manager with MAGIX. And in this video, we're going to take a look at SoundForge Pro 16. Now before we get started, I think it's important to talk about how SoundForge is different than a traditional multi-track DAW like a Pro Tools or Reaper. SoundForge is known as a digital audio editor, but it does way more than simply edit audio waveforms. I think SoundForge truly is an audio Swiss Army knife. It has loads of different tools for a number of different audio tasks. Whether you're doing simple recording like voiceover, or mastering, or editing, sound design, batch conversion, you name it, there is a tool in SoundForge for that audio task. Now, it doesn't record multi-track audio. This SoundForge is not a tool you would use to record a band or produce music. It really is a companion to your existing DAW. You don't need a multi-track DAW to use SoundForge, and there are people that use SoundForge day in and day out as their main digital audio workstation for recording things like voiceover or doing editing, mastering, you name it. Now, the first thing I want to show you is something that we can do, is a process that we can do with SoundForge not even being open. So here, I'm on my desktop, and I'm going to simply right-click on this WAV file, and which brings up the Windows context menu, and choose SoundForge. Now, SoundForge does not even need to be open in order to do certain audio tasks. So for example, let's say I wanted to do something simply like convert a WAV file to an MP3. Well, we can do that here right in SoundForge. Okay, so I can choose my render format, and as you can see, we have loads of different file formats to choose from. And I think this is something that is worth mentioning here, is SoundForge has been around for a long time. And there are a lot of file formats that you don't really see that often anymore. However, it's good to know that some of these features are available if you need them. So I'll choose MP3. Also, we have templates to choose from. And then choose OK. Quick and easy. Okay, so let's go back into the application. So here we are, SoundForge Pro 16. And let me just give you a quick tour of the interface because I think it's important to know that SoundForge is incredibly flexible. This is not a static interface. Things can be easily moved around, and windows can be moved, reordered, and you can set up your own layout. So let's check out the View menu under Window Layouts. And as you can see, we have a default layout. This gives us much more screen real estate for our audio waveforms for editing. We have a mastering layout. Now with that, what we see is obviously the waveform, but we can see our loudness meters, our Explorer, so we can bring in files from our drives. We have a spectrum analysis, and then we have our plugin chain. Interface, this is a great layout for mastering work. With our meters, summary information, we can add metadata to the file when we're finally done. So it's a great layout for mastering. But again, you can create your own layouts if you'd like. Go to Window Layouts and save a new layout if you wish, and that'll be ready for you whenever you want to bring it up. So SoundForge makes a great companion to a digital audio workstation like Ableton Live and others, or video editing software. Vegas Pro by MAGIX, you can also round trip with SoundForge. So if there are some audio files that you wanted to do some editing or some sound design and take it out of Vegas, bring it into SoundForge, you can do some processing and bring it back. And you could do that with other video editing software as well. So let's talk about sound design a little bit. So let's talk about sound design and why I think SoundForge is a great tool for sound design. So number one, it round trips with workstations, as I just mentioned. And that's really handy. And it's nice to be able to get the audio that you're looking to process out of that workstation into another workspace to do some processing. So here we are. I have a just kind of a real ambient kind of noise sound file. Let's say I want to start applying just some processing and create a variety of different versions. I can do that here. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of this and then paste it to a new window, okay? And I can actually do the exact same thing here again, so I have a couple different versions. All right, so in Sound 1, I could start applying some processing here using the Instant Action menu. Let's talk about Instant Action a little bit. So what this does, as you can see, it has a lot of quick access to commonly used tasks. So under the Workspace tab, under the Workspace menu, I can bring in different layouts. I can access my VST settings and bring in different meters. Under the Effects tab, I have a bunch of different processes that I can use here. So let's just apply some reverb to this one. And let's check this out. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'll choose OK. All right, let's go to Sound 2. And I'm going to reverse this. And I'll apply that reverb as well. Now, I haven't touched the original, and I have two quick variations, and I could keep going with this. So hopefully you can see how powerful this is as a sound design tool. Now I can export these and bring them into my video editor and start experimenting with these different sounds. So SoundForge is also great as a mastering workstation. So as I can see here, I have my waveform up in the window. And over to the left, I have a chain of plugins, a dynamic EQ, a compressor, a limiter, and a meter. And down at the bottom, I have a bunch of file information and a summary file information. All of this I can go in and edit the metadata if I wish before I render the file. It's important to note that SoundForge also supports DDP, or Disk Description Protocol, and this allows you to export a file that goes along with your audio, that when you send a record out to be duplicated, either CD or vinyl, it sends the DDP file to the facility, and then they can read start times and things like that. So that's really useful and an essential part of the mastering process. So I wanted to point out a few really helpful things that are in the Tools menu of SoundForge, starting with the batch converter. So there are times when you'll need to convert a bunch of files, whether that be simply WAV to MP3 or something like that. That's very basic. With SoundForge, you can apply effects during the batch conversion process too. So here, if I click on effects, and I can apply all the different effects that are showing up in my effects list. So I could put on a high pass filter or any number of things like that. I can apply metadata to all these converted files. The name of the artist, engineer, creation date, you name it. Export formats. If I wanted to change the format, I could do that here. I can send these files to different folders. If I have something like a drive that is loaded up to a cloud storage drive, I could do that as well. So super useful to have the batch converter tool built into SoundForge. Another really useful thing is the scripting feature. This allows you to apply automated tasks to things that just take a long time that you maybe don't want to go in and do for each particular file. Things like normalize and a graphic fade. If, let's say you're working with a lot of dialogue and you want to quickly normalize it and add a short fade, you can apply something like this. So this can really speed up the whole process. And the next thing I want to show you here is that SoundForge supports ARA or ARA. And this allows you to open a file into an application like Melodyne or Spectra Layers. Melodyne is well known for tuning, so tuning vocals. And Spectra Layers is an amazing application, but it allows you to do spectral editing. So, and then you can remove things like pops and clicks and high frequency sounds like sirens and things. But you can do the editing in the external application and then bring it right back into SoundForge. So having that feature is really, really powerful and opens you up to using these powerful tools. Okay, so the final feature that I'd like to show you in SoundForge Pro is remote recording. So if you've ever had to record a script or voiceover, sometimes it can be really helpful to have just clear your workspace so you can just look at the script and just read the script, make notes, etc. It's helpful to have a second monitor in this case, but that's not always an option. So remote recording allows you to clear SoundForge away, and all you have is this really handy little remote record interface. So essentially it's a floating transport. I can hit record, play, stop, all this. I can create markers, and I can see my level and the status of the time I recorded and how much is left on the drive. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. I'm just going to start recording. And you can see the time elapsed. It's pretty handy. And all I can just focus right on the script, and I don't have to be worried about the busy interface of SoundForge, and I can just focus on reading the script. And it's helpful because then you can drop in markers if you want to go back to a particular section to redo it or fix something. Okay, so let's go back to SoundForge. And as you can see, I didn't record anything, but I did drop the marker here. So really useful. Okay, so hopefully you can see that SoundForge is a really powerful tool, whether it is your sole workstation for doing things like voiceovers or mastering, batch conversion, sound design, you name it, or working as a companion to your existing digital audio workstation. It makes a great companion to applications like Ableton Live that are fantastic for music creation, but maybe the editing features are a little bit on the light side. SoundForge really allows you to take and really get in deep and edit your files and then bring them back into your application, whether that's a digital audio workstation for music production and recording, or a video editor like Vegas Pro, Avid, Premiere Pro, etc. So thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something about SoundForge Pro. I hope you enjoy the rest of IMSTA Online. Thanks.